All right, friends, it's T-Man. We're going to do another crazy video on Jason Blaha, one of his crazy videos. Yeah, we're going to do a reaction to one of his crazy videos, dude. So, yeah, I'm going to react to the gym lifting, recruiting, fitness, gear slave himself, Jason Blaha. Blaha says, myth busting, ancient humans did not have access to a lot of saturated fat. Yes, they did. They did have access to lots of saturated fat, more than what people eat today. People eat seed oils and plants as they think is saturated fat, which is fake.
Pre-agricultural humans did not have access to large amounts of saturated fat. Hey, everybody.
That's a lie. Predated humans had lots of access to saturated fat. You want to know where they got it from? Meat. Big game. They would hunt for big game. And you know where the saturated fat is found? In the meat. That's where saturated fat is found. It's found in meat. When people say lean cuts of meat, what does that mean to you? Lean cuts means there's still fat in there, right? So you're getting saturated fat, regardless whether it's lean or not. So they're getting it from the meat, and guess where else they're getting it from? Bone marrow. So that's why people talk about bone marrow now all the time. They say you should eat this bone marrow, whatever, you know, it's delicious, yada, yada, because we need a lot of saturated fat. Women, they crave saturated fat. Women. And men too. We crave saturated fat. So where do you get it from? Well, why do you think we churned butter? We made butter instead of, like, here's the thing. If you're crossing plains, right, and you don't have any animals with you, but you need saturated fat, well, what do? They created butter. They could take butter with them anywhere they go, and they can eat this butter, you know, whatever. You can spread it on bread, the slave food, make it taste better or whatever. I don't know. But they would take it with them because, I don't know, maybe they couldn't take milk. It would spoil. Who the fuck knows? But they needed, there's more saturated fat in I believe, in butter than there is just alone in just milk. But again, animal products is where they get their saturated fat. Where do I get my saturated fat? Milk. When I crave and I need more saturated fat, the first thing I do is I go get milk, bro. I start drinking milk like crazy. You know that? Because, I don't know, I start craving it. You know, I crave these things. And sometimes what I do is, with the butter and just eating the butter alone, I'll just, sometimes I will cook my eggs at night. I'll cook like, 3 eggs or something, put a lot of butter in there. That helps as well. See what I mean? But it is what it is. Look, man, it is what it is. Preferentially, really, it's a preference. Look, man, honestly, I'd rather eat it raw. Okay, raw is a lot better. I try to eat a lot of things that are raw. I'm not saying you have to eat raw meat and all this. You can cook your meat if that's what you want to do. That's up to you. There's consequences to pay for everything in life. You can cook it, it could be like rare. Your beef is very rare, okay? But pork, you can't do that with pork or chicken because they're putrid animals, bro, get it? But with beef, you could practically eat it raw, or you just, eat it very rare. Okay, that's a good thing about it. At least the nutrients are still intact. There's something there, okay? You haven't really destroyed it. But sushi you could eat raw and stuff. There's lots of saturated fat in fish. I mean, there's lots of saturated fat in fish. There's lots of saturated fat in animal tissues, muscle, this, that, bone marrow. So I don't know what Blaha's talking about. And milk, of course, animal products.
It's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals
dairy products.
a little bit about this today. This is one of those things. It's funny when you really look at it. But if you guys would please give me a like down below. Please follow or subscribe if you haven't yet.
I would.
And
I can't.
Please leave me a comment down below. So this is one of these things I see people claim all the time. And
Yeah.
let me be perfectly clear. I am not anti-meat. I'm big on red meat. I'm big on dairy. All these things. But there's a point where we have to step back and go. A lie is a lie, and we can't base our reality upon complete fabricated nonsense that cannot possibly be true. It's just not good practice. And on top of that, again, this is the appeal to nature that happens when people make this claim. Well, our ancestors did this, or they'll even refer back to, whatever, a completely different species that had an average life expectancy of.
Manage your roofing business on one platform. Visit roofer.com to get
whatever, a completely different species that had an average life expectancy of 35 and were too stupid to even speak. Okay.
So as a species, we're too stupid to speak with an average lifespan of 35. Well, that's funny because the Bible says people live to 600 or 1,000 years. And I think it was that guy who wanted to know the secret. One of them that were from this ark or whatever wanted to know. Some of the survivors were still alive 600 years later. Want to know what the secret was that they were living so long. It was kind of obvious. They ate marine life. They ate marine life. I'm not talking about the big one, the big fish. They ate fish instead of eating like, marlin and fucking tuna and all that. Because all of them, they eat the other fish. Get it? The point is, you're supposed to eat the smaller fish. They eat plankton and stuff. They're more healthy. So yeah, all the good stuff is in them with very low so-called mercury levels, or almost non-existent. There's very little in there, whatever, like sardines and stuff. So they ate fish, and they ate it raw. They ate fish and they ate it raw. And most likely, that's what caused them to live longer. And they never got sick. They weren't prone to disease because they never broke the laws of nature. They ate seafood like fish, whatever. And it's a possibility they ate some other, I don't know if they maybe ate some animals. It's hard to say, bro. And they didn't farm. And they drank groundwater. Okay, well water, mineralized groundwater. So there you go. So yeah, they lived off the land, And then these guys, they shortened their lifespan after the ark, because they started farming and doing weird shit and eating crap. So there you go. That's going to shorten your lifespan. What do you expect? That's going to make you age and shorten your lifespan.
We'll make references, but don't even get me started on that one. So we're talking purely about Homo sapien, right? We're talking about humans, the species that we are today across the world.
No, when he says they lived an average 35 years, what you're really talking about is what made them live to an average of 35 years. Well, they killed each other, remember? But they were competing for food or whatever it was they were doing there, but they were killing each other. Humans are sadistic. They kill each other. They kill each other now. If there wasn't no police in the street, human beings would kill other human beings because they like to do that. Animals have an instinct to kill, and they will kill you. I mean, you can regulate it, put police there, whatever, try to control it, whatever, the court system and all that, make up all these ideas. Why did this guy go in there and rampage and shoot all these people in the school or this building or an office or something? Well, let's find out. What made him do it? Nothing. He's human. Humans kill. That's what they do. They go to the army, they kill. Your government kills, they kill. They'll kill you. You understand me? If they need to. So, yeah, humans kill each other. So the average lifespan 35 because they killed each other. They died. They couldn't live long. They didn't live long enough to to find out how long they could live.
People make that claim that, well, in the pre-agricultural era, because again, going back more than a few thousand years.
Why do you think people are surprised today? They call them centenarians. They go, oh, look at this. This person lived to 120, 25. Oh my God, 130. They're like, holy shit, the person can live to 130 years old? For them, they're surprised. Want to know why? Because the average lifespan, what did Blaha say? 35. Why? Because they were killed. Get it? But there's no wars for these people to go to. Nobody's killing them. And they got a somewhat clean environment, but they could possibly live longer. But the environment they've domesticated themselves. So what do you expect? They're not eating wild animals. They're drinking tap water. It's full of chemicals. Could you imagine now they're not fighting, they're not dying, not being killed. If they were to just drink fucking mineral water and wild animals and wild like fish, you know what I mean, from the ocean or whatever, and these shellfish and whatever else, how would a human being fare if they weren't exposed to all these chemicals, fucking washing in chemicals all day and drinking chemicals from the tap all day and fucking whatever the fuck they're doing there, okay? And these, fake foods and everything, how long could they possibly live? Well, there's no study on it. See what I'm trying to explain to you? There's no study on it. But most likely, a lot of these people that are living as centenarians, it's because they eat a very moderate diet and they still eat somewhat good, but they're still exposed to these, the arsenic from the rice and the cyanide and then the oxalates and then the chlorine from the water, the fluoride and all the other bacteria and viruses and shit, whatever, and estrogen that's in there because they can't clean it out. And then you shower in it too as well. So you drink it, you shower in it, you bathe in it all day, chemical bath. Then they go to the swimming pool and then they swim in chlorine all day for hours. Then they go home and they wonder why their hair stinks like chlorine all day. For the next 2-3 days, they can't get it out of their skin or their hair. You know what I mean? And then they're downing all this fake food and sugar. What do you expect?
We ate tons of saturated fat and it didn't harm us, okay?
Yes, we did. We ate tons of animal saturated fat. It made us healthy, very healthy.
All right. My question is, where did they get it?
I just told you where they got it from. Bone marrow. They got it from the meat, eating it, large wild game, and dairy products, animal products, man, animal products, bro. Milk, goat's milk, broski. Get it? Yeah. What do you think the Mongols? What did they eat? Oh, they ate meat and they drank milk, right? Oh, that's where they got their saturated fat. Duh. They survived. They didn't die because there was no saturated fat or diet. Where else did they get it from? Bone marrow. Oh. Where else could you get it from? Oh, you go fishing, you get more saturated fat. The fish, they're fatty fish. They got saturated fat. Oh, okay.
They get it? People say, well, what do you mean? Obviously from animals. No, they didn't have agriculture.
What?
They had to hunt their animals.
What? They didn't have agriculture? Oh, I love this one. Oh, they had to hunt their animals. Yeah, they hunted animals. They fished. They hunted. Yeah. And when they caught them, they ate them. They ate the bone marrow. They got the saturated fat, and they drank the milk, too, from some of these animals.
Okay, so again, we come over to that point. If you don't have grains and pastures and all this stuff to feed
Grains?
herds of animals,
Yeah.
they're very lean. Like, and people don't get this.
They're very lean. Yeah. Yeah. You mean what they're doing now, feeding these animals, domesticated animals on farms, they feed them fake food, a lot of or food that they're not supposed to be eating. Yes, of course, yes. To bulk them up.
You know, the only reference they'll jump back and talk about the Inuit.
To make them kind of fat, yes.
9% of humans have no Inuit ancestry.
But that could be a bad thing. That fat could be bad fat. See what I mean? You don't want an animal that's too fatty.
So that doesn't work. You can't talk about a tiny, tiny number of people in the Arctic Circle who had access to seals and whales.
What? A bunch of people that had access to seals and whales? Well, you don't want to just eat seals and whales. It's more healthy to eat fucking fish like sardines, smaller fish, mackerel. Those are much healthier. I don't think they had access to mackerel, blaha, or shellfish, blaha. You understand me? They didn't have sardines up there, blaha. They had whale and whale blubber. They ate whales. Maybe they ate seals. I don't know what the fuck they ate there. Possibly a seal. Why would you eat a seal though? It's gross. So mostly they killed whales, and they stored this meat, whatever, in some ice castle or some shit, whatever. That's what they were eating the whole winter. Yeah, that's what they eat up there. And I'm pretty sure they killed some wild caribou or some shit up there too. There's some caribou running around. Don't worry, they're gonna eat something else. But how long do those people live up there? Well, here's the thing. The thing with marine life, I do know it says in science that there's not it doesn't have all the nutrients. It has the essential ones, but it's kind of deficient in other nutrients. And so your body's going to have to compensate somehow. It makes it work harder. I don't know. And so if you are deficient in some of these nutrients, here's what happens. Your lifespan is going to be short. So how did these people live to 600 in the Bible? I don't know. Maybe they got all the nutrients. They might have gotten some particular wild animal they knew about back then, thousands of years ago. I don't know. Maybe they're not around anymore, these animals. Who the fuck knows? Maybe they disappeared. They were there. I don't know. So maybe they got enough of that from that. They ate the bone marrow. They ate the saturated fat from the meat and shit. And they ate a lot of fish. There you go. And they drank fucking clean, mineralized water from the land, not from the toilet.
Okay, we're talking about humans in Africa, in Europe, Central Asia, East Asia.
What about him?
The Americas, North and South America, right?
Yeah.
Talking about people in these regions.
Uh-huh.
Where do they get all this saturated fat?
Where do they get it? They get it from animals. That's where animal products.
Wild game. That's it. So how lean is that? And people say, well, what about dairy? Well, not everyone had access to.
Where do bears get all they get fat? They eat a lot, they get fat, right? And then they go and hibernate. What is their main staple in their diet? What is their main staple? Fish. They eat shitloads of fish because it's extremely fatty. Okay. What else do they eat? Shellfish. They dig up shellfish. Do they eat other animals and things? Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility they eat other animals. See what I mean? But it seems like they get enough from just eating fish alone. And they don't just like eat any fish. They eat like salmon going up fucking stream and shit. They eat a lot of salmon.
large amounts of dairy, and that's post-agriculture. Like, you're not going to have goats and cows that you can milk unless you have a herd that you can tend and feed somewhere. That wasn't happening 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 years.
Yeah, but when they captured these animals, they figured it out. They had milk, so they could take one and keep it tied up with a rope. They knew it would give milk. See what I mean? When they captured a female, they weren't stupid.
Go according to what we have. So you didn't have all that dairy, so just that doesn't work.
They did. They had all that dairy. They had bone marrow. They had access to meat, big game, and milk.
Unless you think that they were chasing wild mammoths and milking them.
No, they didn't have to chase. There were goats. They got a goat and drank goat milk like the Mongols.
Again, nonsense. They were hunting animals.
See, to Blaha, everything is nonsense. They were hunting animals. Okay, if you hunt animals, what's in there? Saturated fat. Blaha is like he's trying to convince you there's no saturated fat found in animals. Where did they get it from? Where did they eat? Okay, if you die, Blaha says if you don't get saturated fat, you die. So I guess they all died. So we must be an extinct clan. We're not here right now. Nobody's here right now, Blaha. You're talking to yourself.
But again, anyone out here who's a hunter or looks at the nutrition profile of wild game, you're going to realize real quickly, wild animals don't have a lot of fat on them. See, they're not sitting around.
But they have a lot of nutrients. They're very high and they're healthy and they're not giving inoculation. You don't, man, again, when they see lean meat, they still mean there's fat in there.
Being grain-fed in a pasture or a feedlot. They're lean.
Boy.
They're very, very lean. In fact, they're usually less than 10% body fat. So you start doing the math, it's like, oh, wait.
Well, if they're grass-fed, then yes, their meat's not going to be so fatty. There's going to be less fat in there, but there's still fat inside. Even if there's less fat, there's still fat found inside there.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? So it's like, yeah, a pound of wild game usually has less than 10 grams of total fat.
Okay.
Okay? Usually less than maybe 2 grams, 2 to 3 grams at the absolute most extreme of saturated. Okay? 3 grams of saturated fat is a ridiculously tiny amount. Almost every one of us eat more than that. I assure you 99% of the population eat more than that. Way more than that.
Sure, Blaha.
We have another cosmetic case.
99% of the population eat more than that. Way more than that, even on a low-fat diet. So to even get like 10 grams, you're looking at 3 to 4 pounds of wild game. Does anyone out there think 10 grams of saturated fat's a lot? And do you really think your ancestors ate 3 or 4 pounds of wild game every single day? No, they got it where they could get it. It wasn't even every day. They certainly didn't get meat every day, and they weren't eating 3 pounds of it a day. All right? So a ludicrous idea. They didn't have access to a bunch of saturated fat. They got a few grams. Right? Your ancestors lived on whatever they could scavenge, whatever animals they could get, whatever fish they could catch, animals they could hunt, nuts, berries, seeds, tubers, grains. Okay, that's what your ancestors ate. Bugs. Right? And again, before someone jumps in, oh my God, there are going to be conspiracy people. We're only going to see bugs. No, I didn't tell you to eat bugs. I'm not telling you, I don't eat bugs. I don't like bugs. I don't want to stand around eating crickets or mealworms personally. But your ancestors did. You know why? Because it was protein. They ate whatever they could get. So yes, they ate a significant amount of insects for hundreds of thousands of years. So again, we come over to this question, where were they getting all this saturated fat? This is a delusion. This is a delusion that people use to push things like a carnivore or caveman type diet. It's not based on reality. Even your ancestors who lived in the regions where they got plenty of game, okay? Even if they got some meat every single day, and most of them didn't, but the ones that did, it was a tiny amount of fat on those animals. right? Unless they lived in the Arctic Circle, which again, less than 1% of the population.
Oh my God, here we go with the Arctic Circle thing, man. This guy's really crazy. I don't know, man. He's no brains.
Far less than 1%.
Oh man, whatever.
Right?
Yeah, don't tell me they lived on rice and arsenic. Yes, okay.
So then you got all the seals and whales. But, so for the most part, you're looking at your
If this is a good morning, I don't know, man. It looks like an odd squat.
sources would be fish. It would be, whatever red meat or whatever you could get. But again, wild game is super, super lean.
Yeah,
Right?
it is.
They weren't eating something that's been pasture raised, like even grass-fed cattle.
So guess what happens to humans when they eat meat? They get very, very, very lean too. They're not fat anymore. You know how you get lean, Blaha? Eat lean meat and you won't be fat. You won't have to be an exercise slave. Get it?
They just chill in a pasture and eat grass. They are way bigger, way fatter than wild animals.
bro. Oh my God.
All right, this is complete nonsense. It
Yeah,
didn't
okay.
exist.
I'm falling asleep listening to him.
And quite frankly, unless your ancestors had access to a
Must be the soothing voice.
lot of nuts and seeds at any given time, they didn't have
Nuts and seeds. Sorry, it must be that feminized voice he has. It's putting me to sleep, man. Listen to his voice, how high pitched it is. I told you before, concentric exercise is associated with a loss of testosterone, shrinkage of testicles. There's all kinds of fucking problems there in HPA. So, yeah, it fucking destroys you. And then you age like crazy. And Blaha, he's gone out of his gorg. He's feminized. His voice is feminine because he's feminized.
a lot of fat in their diet. Now, in the
You
regions
know, a lot of fan or that.
where they did, or times a year where they did, sure, they had plenty of those things.
Yeah.
Right, nuts, seeds, certain legumes. Okay?
Oh boy. Yeah.
But that was their sources of fat. So now we're back over to polyunsaturated fats. If they had a lot,
No. Their sources of fat was. It's on the animal itself plus the milk and everything else, bro. Fucking this guy's just making up shit.
of fat, that's what they had. They just didn't have access to a lot of saturated fat until we started raising our own, particularly dairy animals. Now, I'm not making any claims about the health or the unhealth of it. We're simply talking about dispelling nonsense myths that cannot biologically be true. They're not based in reality.
Okay.
It's complete fiction. All right, guys, but that's really all I...
They're based on pure fiction, yes, just like Blaha. It's all fiction. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Tell us what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. That's really getting really kooky,